hairdressers and barbers and salons and shops, most of us know our sales rep. And if you don't know your sales rep, then you're probably communicating with them through the internet or on text message. Perhaps you've met them. Tetyana Kaufman is a direct sales consultant with Cosmoprof for the DC metropolitan area. Last time we spoke, we learned what is it like to be a sales rep and what a day in the life is like. Well, she also mentioned that she has a nice proximity to hairdressers and salon owners and shop owners around the area, and gives her insight to business and other trends. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. I am your host, Robert Hughes, and today I'm back with Tetyana Kaufman, and she is going to tell us a little bit about give us a little bit of insight into the industry, what she sees happening, and different things when it comes to business. Tetyana, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Hello again. Thanks for having me on, Robert. Good to
Thank
be
you
back.
for coming. Yeah, that's awesome. So last time, and if you're watching or listening to this and you did not watch or listen to the previous episode, I think it's a great one to get to know Tetyana, get to know what it's like to be a sales rep, because a lot of us in the industry don't know what it's like on the other end. We all know what it's like to be us and communicating with our sales reps. So it's a pretty good one. Also, if you're looking or interested in picking up another career, or even maybe becoming an ambassador of a product line, you want to become a sales rep, whatever it is, I recommend you check that out. And it's pretty good. So today we're going to talk about something you alluded to in our previous conversation, is that you have this access and proximity, which gives you a vantage point of the business and trends. And we're going to specifically talk about trends on the business side and the professional development side, not necessarily the side of the craft. So what type of things are you seeing out there?
Oh, this is such a ever-evolving, fast-paced beauty industry. Every day you learn something new, you get a new perspective. And I don't know if there's any other industry out there that moves with such a fast pace as ours. Would you agree?
Yeah, things move really quickly, but you know what? There are certain haircuts that don't move quick enough, in my opinion, but I guess that's for another story.
Those are going to be
It,
the trends of the stylists and the other type of trends.
yeah, exactly. But yes, I do. And I think we're also in the midst of a time when there's a lot of changes happening. COVID really sped up a lot of things that I think we're already changing. And so anyway, if you like off the top of your head, what is one change, like say in business model, communication, application of tech?
So it's very complex, and I'll try to be as brief as possible, because this is something that we can go very deep and intense with. Uh, One of the biggest changes that I personally notice is the work-life balance that is valued differently, in my opinion, that it was before, and even more so before the pandemic. That one of the things that, and again, I just want to make a disclaimer: everything that we'll be sharing here is not based on some kind of data or some kind of research that was conducted by me. This is just solely based from my experiences and my communication with my customers and reading a couple of blogs. So I'm not an expert by any means. I don't have some kind of degree with it that I can, or a published book or anything like that. I'm just sharing what I've experienced in my career, basically, and what I'm continuing to experience. So like I said, one of those things is that work-life balance. We've noticing more and more that everybody prefers to work less and have more time free, and it comes a bit of a shock to some, where it can becomes as a breath of fresh air for others. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that is presented, because we are facing also a clash of different generations.
Oh,
That
yeah.
that is definitely affects how we view and perceive not only the values but also the ethics, and what's important, what's not. And that's something that I can't stress enough on, that we need to be very aware and open to these changes, because we can either learn from it or we can fall behind on it.
Okay, so so work-life balance. I totally agree. I have been experienced to that myself personally, also in our shop. And I also think what you said about people, some people it's a shock or surprise to, and other people they're happy to see it. You said something along those lines. Well, like I definitely am known some salon owners who are like, dude, it's like business is opening back up and people just they don't want to come back into working as much. We were only able to work 3 days a week because of COVID spacing out the salon, and now the stylists don't want to come back more than 3 days a week. Is that kind of what you're seeing, or you got any other specific examples?
Well, that is definitely one of those examples that I'm referring to. But it's hard to single one of them in particular, or give you like a ABCD list of, because like I said, it's very complex. What what drives this change, in my opinion, is that the values in different generations, and the way that we approach work relationship are different. If I look back at my parents, for example, the work ethic was, you know, if I want to get from point A to point B, I have to work, 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 and get to the point B. Usually that's a lot of, putting in a lot of hours. That's a lot of, having to prove somebody something before you can get leveled up in a way. Uh, Versus, the values of, I want to enjoy what I do. I don't necessarily want to have a label of being, whatever. I'm okay with doing what I'm doing, but I want to be happy. And it doesn't necessarily mean that this person is going to work less or doesn't want to work. It boils down to understanding, okay, what is this person's values, and is this person's values match my business values? And maybe we are not the right fit, but maybe we are a right fit, but we're just doing it wrong.
Mm.
And I mean, everybody wants to work smarter, not harder, right? But again, going back to my parents' generation, in the only way to get somewhere on the career ladder, you have to put in the hours, put in the time, and then you can, in a way, level up. But that affects also, a lot of other things in your personal life, or maybe, you are not having enough time to recover from working that many hours, or you don't spend enough time with your family. And as me, looking at my parents, and as growing up not seeing them as much, because they were working all the time, and spending time with my grandparents, I understand that. However, do I want to do the same thing as my parents did? So to bring it back to like a salon industry, let's say, you have a salon owner that started as an apprentice at the salon, and for them to get to, let's say, a stylist on the floor, they had to do this many hours, they had to produce this many repeat customers, they had to produce this much in retail sales, on all these things, but they had to do the way that they were taught, right? So this is what expected from them. So they follow this ladder to do that. And then let's say, years go by, the stylist decides to open up their own business. They will put the model in the same way that they were trained on, because
Mm.
that's what you do. You share how you were taught. And that's where that clash of generation happens, when the newer generation is looking at the work-life balance differently. They look at this I want to be happy where I work, and I maybe don't want to work 5 days a week, but I still want to have the same opportunity to get to that point. But nobody's showing me the ways how to get
Mhm.
there, or trying to tell me to do things the other way, and they just don't sit right with me. So those are one of these big things that I invite everybody to look at and to kind of evaluate is, uh, we can be doing things that we did when my parents were doing what they were doing, but to be open to some changes. I'm not saying that I'm urging you to go and totally change the way you run your stuff. Absolutely not. This is not the message that I'm saying. It's being open to the changes that are happening and being open to understanding that maybe we can't put the same program in place as we attended.
Yeah, I think you're touching on something that I like to talk about a lot on this channel, on this show, and and is actually one of the inspirations for why we started this. Was there is definitely a gap between the business model that is being run by current salon owners who came up through a certain system set of certain expectations, and then they're putting those same expectations on their new hires, but their new hires are a completely different generation with different expectations. So I am curious. So do you think that this younger generation, newer generation of stylists, rising stylists, or just this new, it's not, it's because it's the generational, but it also seems to me like um like COVID kind of changed it also. So have you seen that that's been a case too? Like there are some people that are not a Gen Z or not a millennial, maybe a Gen Xer, who have that desire for more focus on work-life balance, or do you think it's specifically within generations?
Um, it's not necessarily specific to generations. It's just more obvious in certain
Okay.
generations.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what COVID, I mean, COVID threw a wrench into a lot of things and everything. But one thing that COVID did show us that we're gonna be okay, and the time spent with family and downtime spent well is important. That that the drive, a potential drive to more is not always the answer to all the questions.
Hmm.
And that's where I started getting a lot of questions that I started asking everybody. Uh, why why are you where you're at? It's not about tell me your journey, how you ended up here. It's more of, okay, we just survived this pandemic. Now we're here. How are we going to move forward? Why are we here? And what is your vision now? How what's our, let's figure out our whys basically. So if you're after pandemic, let's say you've been in the industry for a very long time, and you catch yourself that maybe not a lot of your stylists had returned. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, because I can categorize it in different models and give a little bit of a uh, my in a way insight on different categories,
Okay.
or just generalize it. So basically, if I wanted to generalize it, is, let's say you're salon owner that you've been doing really, really well, and after pandemic, things did not go so well. Now you don't have all your stylists returning, or whatever changes have happened, and there's a lot of fear and panic. What are we going to do? Because you're still trying to do the old, like what you've done before, and it's like, okay, why are you trying to do things that they were like they were before? This is the opportunity to reinvent, and or figure out other ways, because things are different. They're not going to be the same, and try to do things that they how they were before pandemic. It's going to be basically very, very difficult. It's going to be very difficult.
Mhm.
I hope that answers your question a little bit, because
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious to know though. You said other different business models and being more specific, and categorizing them. What did you mean by that?
So, as you know, we are seeing a big trend in becoming an independent stylist. Whether you
Yeah.
are going into your salon suite, whether you're just being part of a team, but you're still being in a way like independent contractor, or you're still running your business as a commission, or you switched it to the contractor. All of these models can be successful. There is no better model or worse. It's just if this model is right for you. And if Mary is doing something and she's doing good at something, doesn't mean that if you repeat the same thing, you're going to be successful. And that's one of these big things that I'm trying to even myself get a grasp on. Just because industry is changing, it doesn't mean that we were just removing one model completely from another. Everything can be tweaked, and all of them have uh, an opportunity to be very successful. But this is where you need to take a step back and ask yourself a lot of questions. So, for example, a lot of stylists, like, are drawn to be independent. My first question to them is, why do you want to be independent? What drives you to be independent? Figuring out these factors of what's the reason behind you choosing to be independent. If you are a salon owner and you are running a commission salon, which is very difficult thing to do. And there is a lot of fear, or what if my stylists will go and start their own businesses? That's the question again that I would like. Why are you afraid of them leaving? Why are you concerned about your business? So there's a lot of questions that are underlying, and it's like peeling the onion, because like I said, all of these models are successful, and I'm a big supporter of commission salons because there's a lot of value there. There's a lot of things that independent stylists cannot get if they're not part of the salon. But again, it stems from, what are your motivating factors to do what you decide to do? And the successful stories are on both in both categories are based off understanding what are your values as a stylist or salon owner, and what is the vision that you have for your business. Because once you have that vision, it's easy to go backwards from it, and if a system can be put in place and the plan can be written up. But just because somebody jumped on opportunity and they became successful, it doesn't mean that if you jump on this opportunity, you're also going to be successful. You might be, I'm not saying you won't, but those are like good questions to ask yourself. And there is no good thing or bad thing, or if you do this, this is good, but if you do this is bad. It's
Right.
more of the, is this going to fit you to work well with where you're at, or it's
Uh-huh.
not going to work well where you're sitting at.
So have you seen any salons close during COVID?
Yes, I did.
Like permanently close?
Uh, yes. In my experience with some of the salons that I know, or whether they're my client or not, that just I'm familiar with, um, the closure of a salon was either a financial necessity, or it was simply, you know what, I'm just going to be done with this business
Yeah,
now. I, don't-
totally.
I put in the time, I put in the effort. I want to go and enjoy my life,
Mm.
and that's why I'm closing it.
Did you see a lot of stylists? Did you personally see a lot of salons that their stylists went to be independent,
I have a couple examples.
but not a lot, not like a majority?
It's not a vast majority.
Yeah.
I do have quite. I actually during the pandemic, I became friends with a lot of stylists who were just trying to figure out what they're going to do. And they reached out to me, and we had a lot of awesome conversations, because there's a lot of fear and panic. Or what are we going to
Yeah.
do? Are we going
Totally.
to go back? Or I'm afraid to go back. What do I do? What do I do?
Mhm.
And some went out of a necessity to provide for themselves, because they knew if they're going to be working in a larger salon, their clients might not be comfortable coming in there. So
Yeah,
it's
that's a
not
good point.
necessarily a reason of, oh, because I wasn't happy where I was
Yeah,
at. It's
yeah, totally.
more of a necessity of providing to their customers.
Do you think any, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Do you think any of those independent stylists that are stylists who went independent, do you think that they'll go back to wanting to work at a salon after a while, once they realize how much work it is to run your own place, or when they realize that they're missing out on some of the value being in a salon, like you were talking about?
Tricky question over here.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a, it's
That
a,
is a
it's a,
big
it's
question that I have in my head.
it's a tricky question, and I'll tell you why. Because again, it boils down to why they went independent in the first place.
Right.
If a stylist that went independent for reasons of personal growth, of owning their own business, of being in charge of their business, and understanding everything that comes with running your own business, they probably will not return to the salon. If the stylist went out of the reasons of a necessity to accommodate their customers somewhere, because they just want to be a stylist, they just want to do an awesome hair, and they just love doing that. Again, it's hard for me to predict or say, but I know that with that kind of reasoning, you missing out on that support aspect of being in the salon, of having your fellow coworker there that you can, eat lunch with in the break room, or things like that. So again, when I'm looking at this independent versus salon business model, I invite everybody to ask themselves, is this the right move for me? Because there's nothing wrong or nothing bad in it. Is just, is it going to be a good fit for you?
So how about, did you see any commission salons switch to a rental model?
Not a lot,
Not
actually.
a lot.
Mm-mm. No,
Yeah.
not a lot.
I was curious
Uh,
about that. I've heard of some made that decision, but I didn't know if you saw that.
not in my experience that I could affirmatively answer yes or no on. There's a lot of curiosity about, what if I do this?
Mm,
What if, how is it going to look for me if I do this?
right.
There are some instances where we're seeing the collaborative environment.
Tell us
Uh,
about that. Tell us about some examples, concepts, like maybe someone is listening or watching this right now who's a salon owner who's thinking about, maybe they have that question and maybe they want to make a change, or maybe it's somebody who's aspiring salon owner who's thinking they want to do something different. They don't want to do a rental or commission salon. Tell us a little bit about, like, some examples of things that you've seen.
this is definitely a very new concept in the United States. I feel like it's a little bit more developed in Europe. But again, it's based on my personal curiosity. It's not backed by anything. It's just, I'm curious about stuff, and I dig it up and I read up about it, and then I just ask questions about it. So basically, the collaborative environment in the salon looks something along the lines of, we all have an opinion, we all want to be valued here, and we also want to have some kind of financial uh, reimbursement for our time put in, which again can be extremely tricky or can be extremely awesome. It's just based on setting up that proper layout for how you want to run your business. Because if in the ideal world, let's say 4 of your friends came together, everybody put in the same amount of money, then you have 4 basically owners, and then you guys can decide how you want to run your business. With that also comes with a lot of other stuff that, oh, but I don't want this, I don't want that, too many chefs in the kitchen. So it's like, who makes these decisions? In a collaborative environment, you still have somebody in charge. It's not necessarily that everybody can pitch in and just say, well, I want it my way because this is my contribution to it, or things like that. It's more of the collaboration comes in that partnership of inspiration, sharing ideas, having this like-minded people with you, but it doesn't always mean that somebody has to be financially invested in order to be valued or for their opinions to matter. It just means that they are accepting the values that are positioned here, and they know when they are bringing something up to the table, it will not be turned down because they don't own the business, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but it's also kind of sounds a little bit like a salon where the owner values their employees, or a rental. I mean, how is the actual business different? Have you seen any examples of how the actual business model is different?
I've based on what I've researched about the collaborative environment, there's a great example of that. It's called Hunter Collective, and it's based out of UK. Their model still has rules and regulations in place, but it's more based on how much time you're putting in this collaboration. So you basically, if I remember correctly, they are based on some kind of like a membership basis. So you work based on what your membership defines. But then we offer all of these things that you can benefit from being part of this collaborative environment. So
And are they independent? Do they make their money based on, is their income based on the revenue they bring in, or do they get a piece of the pie of the whole the whole thing, or are they a salary employee? Or
so basically they are in charge of their own business within the this business model, and they charge what they want to charge. They engage with clients on their terms within what parameters set up in their membership.
Gotcha.
So they are in a way independent business owners, but they follow the agreement of the
Okay, and they pay per, and they give access. I think I saw them. I think yeah, it's kind of like you pay per hour that you're going to be there, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Have you seen anything like that in your territory?
I had not. I think that this concept can be a little bit scary for some stylists. Again, like with the entire independent versus commission salon, you know, it's totally different being a stylist that just comes in, does hair, and leaves, and then gets their paycheck, versus I'm going to be independent and now I'm in charge of my business.
Yeah.
Because here's where the question comes in. Are you trying to be independent just to do hair and enjoy what you're doing and that's it? Or are you running your own business?
Right.
And that's something that, again, there is no good or bad. There's not like, oh, you're doing this wrong if you do it this way, or you're doing this right if you're doing this way. It has no like judgment on that. It's more of when you decide to go and be independent, how do you envision your work now moving forward? Is it going to be just, okay, I have my chair and I'm just going to take my clients, I will come in as I go? Or are we running a business? Because I look at every stylist and every salon as a business. So whether you are a small business, just one person, or you're a 2-people business, or you are a full salon business, or you are, doesn't matter what model, you are a business. So Are we running it as a business, or are we just having a fun place for everybody to come hang out, do hair because we love doing hair?
Right.
There's nothing wrong in either of those. It's just, what is it that you want out of it?
So how about what other type of things have you seen? Like how about the way people are charging, the way people are communicating with their customers, or any other type of changes other than, you know, big business model changes, maybe stuff that has happened, changes that you're seeing happening within the salons?
Oh, absolutely. Couple of things that I'm seeing, and I actually like really enjoy watching that development, is digitalizing a lot of check-in, check-in out booking processes. I think it gives a little bit more transparency on booking it properly according to the stylist time. And there is no more let's squeeze somebody in, because it comes down to that that value concept. We value our customers, so we want to give them our time and attention. And stylists don't want to squeeze anybody in at this point. And I don't think the client wants to feel like, oh, somebody else is going to be squeezed in. It's like, I'm here. I want you to pay attention to me.
Totally.
And I think that the online booking system allows that, when the stylist can determine how much roughly, how much time does it require for them to do a particular service. Then you create these windows, and when you go online, you see these windows. It's kind of like going on an open table and reserving a two top versus, a 8 people party. It gives you an availability based on available table. So there's no surprises. So if the stylist can, figure out basically what is their time frame, it's going to be easier for their clients to book it. The other thing that I've noticed, which I also love the most about this beautiful change, consultations. There are more and more consultations.
Well,
Again,
that's good to hear.
that's again where this time is and attention. That's where we are seeing that value rise up.
Nice.
Stylists don't want surprises, and I'm seeing more of, okay, let's book a consultation. It could be a FaceTime consultation, it could be a virtual consultation, it could be, oh, you can just send me some pictures and inspirations from like where you're coming, what you want to get. So then so we book it properly, that we give you ample time to do your service, so you don't feel rushed, because we want to take care of you here. And consultations have been something scary for a lot of stylists. And I know that it's a challenging conversation to have, but it's such a crucial part of that full circle of service. And I strongly invite especially the newer stylists, not to be afraid to do consultations. That's where you can blueprint your appointment and know and prepare properly for it, and give it enough time and know what you need to be working with, especially if you are an independent stylist, because if you are renting a studio, chances are you don't have a full um, product portfolio like a big salon would. So you want to prepare for this appointment properly. And I think that's where that change is happening also. The consultation become a little bit more of a norm, which I
Yeah.
love to see.
Awesome. So before we wrap up, I wanted to just jump back to a point that we were talking about earlier, and that is the stylist wanting work-life balance being more on the mind of people, and stylists not necessarily wanting to work as much or work on more on their own terms, and salon owners, figuring out, and so how some salon owners might be caught off guard by this change, especially as they're kind of coming back, opening up their businesses. Do you think that, and then also there being like this generational effect of younger people wanting to work differently. Do you think that, let me rephrase. I've been finding out through my conversations with people that in going to the schools and talking to the students, it's less that they don't want to work and more that they want a clearly defined, like maybe not daily, maybe not weekly, but monthly path to get from point A to point B. They want it put on paper, and they want to be able to like check in on a regular basis and being like told what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. They want to be coached and taken care of, and like they want to know that they're going to be somewhere where people's going to make an invested interest in them. And I talk to salon owners and they're like, well, I do that, but I tell them. But then the reality is they get lost in their day to day, and then time will go by and the young person is like, look, they haven't even like pulled me aside and talked to me. Or every time I try to have a meeting with them, they don't want to have meetings. Like, I work at a salon with the stylists. It's like kind of a challenge to have a meeting on a regular basis. They feel like, oh, we don't really need a meeting that often. And so what would you say on that whole topic? One is like, I feel like the younger stylists, they will work more if you outline a path. And I feel like that kind of speaks to what you said earlier about, like, as a business owner, decide what business model is right for you. If you're going to have a commission-based salon, I think maybe you should take the time to write out that pathway to adapt. And then that way, exactly how much they're going to work. And if people are going to work 3 days a week, they're only going to work 3 days a week. And then that means you fill those other days up with other stylists. So I don't know how you feel about that. Would you like to speak to that a little bit? Do you agree, disagree, have a different perspective?
Sure. What you said about, the business model, if it's right for you, that's a crucial element in this, in my opinion. And here's why. If as a salon owner, again, I invite you to ask yourself, why are you a salon owner? Are you a salon owner so you can have a full control and work 7 days behind the chair doing hair? Or is there other reason why are you a salon owner? In my journey with being a sales consultant and speaking to a lot of salon owners, their ultimate goal of opening the business is to not be behind the chair 7 days a week. They want to be behind the chair less days a week. Now, why do some salon owners end up being behind the chairs 7 days a week? Because they're turning down clients because they don't have enough staff to work for them. So they don't want to turn down clients because that's just a ripple effect. This is what we're dealing with. Now, there is nothing wrong with being a salon owner that is behind the chair 7 days a week if that's what you like to do. If this is what brings you joy and you love doing hair and you absolutely enjoy every aspect of it, absolutely work as much as you want. But I know one thing, that we can't do it all by ourselves. And as much as we try, something will fall through the cracks. And this is where a salon owner needs to accept the fact that maybe some of the things have to be delegated. Maybe some of the things have to be changed up. Because again, if you as a salon owner want to create an environment for everybody just to come in, do their thing, and you're not really looking at your business as a business, you're looking at this like, I provided this environment because I still work behind the chair. So whatever really happening in the salon, I just want to make sure that everybody's happy. That's fantastic. That's a different conversation. If you're looking at the business that you're in and you don't want to be behind the chair 7 days a week because you're tired, or you feel like, I would love to build some new talent within my salon, or I would like to bring in, I would like to be a place where people can be growing and being motivated, then you ultimately have to think about, if I am behind the chair, let's say 7 days a week, when am I going to be able to do all of these other things? So I am a big believer in setting up systems. It doesn't have to be scary big systems. It can be small systems that everybody kind of knows where their place is and what is expected of them and how are they going to be held accountable. I strongly invite all the salon owners to have your handbook that describes your values of your company, that describes your training protocol in your handbook, that describes your potential of growth in your salon. In the way, why should they work with you and not somewhere else?
As we wrap up here, do you have any advice for a salon owner, a rising stylist before we wrap it up?
I guess the advice that I would like to share is to turn a mirror on yourself and ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you want to be a stylist? And why do you want to be a business owner? And are you willing to do what it takes to do the work? Because that way you can hold yourself accountable. That's your personal accountability checklist point. And if you're not happy with the answers that you provided, or let's say, you ask yourself these questions and you're like, well, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Then there will be different ways that we can approach the situation, that you can approach the situation. But if you can affirmatively answer all these questions to yourself, then you can hold yourself accountable for the path that you're going to create for yourself. But if you're in it just a little bit, like if you're just toes in it and everything else is not really, you're not going to find yourself putting that effort, or understanding that some things will take time to change, then maybe you just need to figure out something else. And I'm not saying in the industry, but I'm just saying maybe be prepared to take what comes with it. And it doesn't have to be ugly, it doesn't have to be bad, it can be all beautiful and amazing. But the only person that we can hold responsible for certain actions is ourselves. So whether you're a salon owner or you just a stylist, just ask yourself, what is it that you want? How do you see it for yourself? And are you willing to put in the work?
All right, that's good. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no problem. That was fun. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. And
You're welcome.
hopefully, some of this information can be, useful. And again, everything that I shared is just based on my personal opinion. So
Yeah, well, that's why we had you on the show. So if you're listening on podcast, please give us a rating. 5 stars is preferable. And follow us. If you're watching on YouTube or Instagram, give us 5 stars, drop a comment, hit subscribe, ring the bell, follow us. It all helps support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. And I appreciate you. Until next time, thank you again, Tetyana.
thank you.
All right.